I'm here at Devlin with Megan Torrance from Torrance Learning, and I'd like to introduce you to her so that she can talk to you a little about Agile project management and Agile development of e-learning. So hi Megan, thank you for talking to us today. So you've been very successful with your Llama training, which you've been doing over the last wee while, which has been a successful part of your business. Could you tell me a little bit about, firstly, Agile development, and secondly, a little more about your contribution to the area?
Okay, so Agile development was really invented by the software industry, and they were looking at ways to respond to change that happens between the time when we get functional specifications and we're supposed to deliver something, because any interesting project changes between those two. The other thing that they were finding, and we find in L&D too, is that when the client specifies what they want, they almost never know everything about what they want. And it's not their fault, it's because we haven't done our amazing magic to show them what we can do, or something important about the business changes along the way. So that's what Agile is designed for. It's a process where you expect and accept change all along the way of the project, and you get small batches of work out, delivered in the world, being useful and getting you feedback to be able to refine it each time. So what we did was, after years of struggling with a very, like say, waterfall approach to project management, where you start here and you analyze, and then you design, and you develop, and you're getting sign-off each way. The problem is it doesn't matter if you got sign-off, because if the project changes, because the business changes, you have to change, and sign-off is really irrelevant. So we struggled with that for a while, and I started talking with some of my software friends who are using Agile. I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So about 5 to 6 years ago, we started using Agile. And a lot of what they do in the software industry makes total sense with e-learning development. I mean, it ports right over, it's very, very easy, and that made a lot of sense. There were a few parts that didn't quite fit well. So when we got to some of the things that really required an instructional designer's touch, it was like a square hole, round peg kind of thing. So we started taking some of the techniques like Kathy Moore's action mapping and some of the other techniques that we use in the e-learning industry, or training in general, and added that into and wove that into the Agile project. So about 2 years ago, we looked at what we did and we said, well, is it Agile or have we created something different? And we literally were sitting around a bunch of project managers and we said, well, it's a lot like Agile. So somebody said la, and then of course some wisecracker says ma, and we have llama. To a little llama and a cape and the whole works. But what's fun about llama, besides the name, is that it's a disciplined practice to incorporate flexibility. So you get the hardcore process and you get the ability to change when things change. And it ends up being actually less stressful and more productive, and what you deliver ends up being closer to what was requested in the first place.
Very good, very good. So obviously very different from a traditional ADDIE design. So how does that work with budgets and things like that if you don't know the outcome at the end before you start at the beginning?
Well, what we like to do is have really transparent conversations about budget, because we all live with budgets, and every project is either bound by budget or time or scope. And so it's important to know which one of those is the most important when you start the project, and it's good to know what the budget for the project is going in. What we like to do is have much smaller iterations, so we're not spending your entire budget before we get something to deliver, because if we miss the boat, we have no budget left to fix it. So we get something little out and say, is this what you wanted? And if it is, then we stop, and you get to walk off with all the rest of your budget, and that's a pretty good deal.
Awesome.
If not, we still have room to do it. When we do this, we think about what kind of risk is the project, how big is the project, how critical is the project, and that helps us judge how many times we're going to iterate, what's the degree of changes we might have. The other thing is that when we're getting something small and useful out early, we can estimate how long it takes to get something small and useful out. It's harder to estimate a bigger project. So if we estimate in little chunks, then we're managing the budget much more tightly.
So do you find that this takes a lot greater level of engagement with the customer when you're doing it that way?
You know, you would think so. And yes, on its face it does. So I'm going to meet with you every week maybe, and I'm going to say, here's what we're working on, is this okay? And you're going to say, oh my gosh, we totally forgot to tell you that something else just changed in the business, and here's this opportunity, and that's great. Or you're going to say, no, that was a good idea, but you didn't quite do it right. Well, I want to know that when it's cheap rather than when it's expensive. Now, so yes, that takes a lot more engagement with the subject matter experts and client sponsors and all throughout the project. However, what a lot of people find is that if they have a client who is not engaged throughout the process and then they get it wrong, they suddenly have a gigantic heap of client engagement, not the kind that you want, at the very end of the project. So you could take that bad engagement at the end and spread it out, make a good engagement.
That's very good. So how are you finding that this is being accepted by customers? Are they having difficulty with the concept behind it?
Our first customers were not always wild about this. So we were working at one point with a Fortune 100 company. They really liked what we were doing. We were staying up very late nights to meet our deadlines, but we were meeting our deadlines, and so they thought it was great. We were a little less wild about it. But what we found is that over time they realized that they're getting something that's closer to what they wanted. They're getting more involved in the process. They're actually learning about instructional design along the way, or learning more about their business along the way, and they enjoy participating in it. And we work really hard to meet them where they are, so we try not to make it too onerous.
Oh, that's very cool. So the system that you use yourself, is that accessible and available to other people?
So we actually do a pretty low-tech system. We started out with corkboards and 3x5 cards, a lot of markers, very low capital budget investment. We now use a free online tool that allows us to, it's called Trello, and it allows us to manage the projects there. And so that's really, really easy. And then we have a Lego board for our big high-level scheduling. If you were to scale this up, I would definitely get a little bit more robust tool than that. There's lots of them out there, and the nice thing here is that the software industry codes software, and they've been doing this for a few more years than we have, so there are tools out there that you can use.
Excellent, good. So do you teach this also to other people?
Yes. So I teach this in a few different ways, and it's part of the Agile ethos, which is to take what you know and share it with other people. Yeah. So teach this through the eLearning Guild Academy. We do private courses or workshops, and we've written a book and a few other things because I think this is really important. It's the kind of thing that has made our lives so much simpler, and I think we build better e-learning because of it, and so that's something we like to share with other people.
Now you also have a book, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have a book and actually an ATD, TD at Work that's coming out in November. So lots of stuff.
Okay, so where can people find more information if they'd like to?
So there is more information at torrancelearning.com/llama-info. It's really long. You can Google Llama, and probably if you Googled Llama and Torrance, you would get a lot. Yes, or Amazon.com, and you'd get that there. Or actually, the eLearning Guild happens to be a good source of information, and ATD too. So.
All right, that's great. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.